Hey everybody, Station Advisor Doug with you on the WLFC YouTube channel once again as we're doing the best we can with the quarantine, and since we can't have bands in the studio right now, we're doing what everybody else is doing. We're putting together Zoom meetings, and we have the head joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. Of course, you can WLFC right now. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Doug.
So let's introduce you, Jacob Morrell, Jack Shaw, Mike Shaw. You guys have been at this like we were just talking since high school. Let's talk about how you guys got together and decided that this was the direction you wanted to go, and how that all came about.
It was what, January 07?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, January 07.
Yeah, after Christmas, I think it was. We were still on Christmas break, and Jacob was new in our grade, and we had found out he played guitar. And Jack and I had been playing together for a while, so
we're twins.
Yeah,
Mike and I.
Right.
So we invited Jacob over for a jam, and since then we've all been performing, writing songs, just the three of us.
Yeah.
And we got great chemistry, and we've seen some great gradual results, which is nice.
I'm always curious because I have no musical talent. I love music. I love listening to people who are good at playing music. But what made you start to dabble in it a little bit? But the leap from going like, this is something I like to do, to this is something I'm going to do, always seems like that would be the most intimidating step to me. At what point did you guys hit that, we're making this go?
I feel like it was towards the end of our first year of college. We definitely, we never didn't play music together. It's all we did. And it was like breathing to us. So, after, a certain point, we're like, there was a decision, but it came very naturally to us too.
We've been doing it for so long from such a young age that it was just something that was like, kind of like a calling almost, but like didn't like feel like you were called to it. It was just like that's what we always did. So it was like sort of an easy decision to make when we decided to go like head first into it, like full time and all that.
A no-brainer.
Yeah.
So never any hesitation, and certainly you guys have been doing this for over a decade now. So certainly working out for you. The new EPs are out. We'll talk about those right now. What Happened to Us? A series of 3 EPs. I'm curious, what made you decide to go that route rather than just one album?
We felt that releasing EPs would allow us to keep our fans, I guess, engaged and something to look forward to constantly, as opposed to releasing one giant album and then waiting a whole period of time for another body of work to come out. We feel like releasing music in little sprints like that and EPs keeps the faucet going at a very, I guess, steady stream, and it keeps us on our toes. It keeps the audience on their toes.
The engagement never dies because everyone, it's essentially a 6 to 8 week cycle. After one EP comes out, wait a few months and see what comes out next. And it's more of like, kind of what albums used to do, but now it's, you adapt to the modern times, and the idea of an album is, a lot shorter now. And, people are like these little, mini almost concepts versus these really long drawn out records that, sometimes come out far and few between. But with an EP, it's like Jack said, a faucet dripping.
Well, I think we're in an interesting time for music too, where there's room for experimentation like that. Whereas if, even when you guys got started, the model was a lot different than it is now. Well, let's just talk a little bit about that from the time you guys released your first album to now. How have you kind of dabbled in some creative ways to release things out? What's been your evolution in that process?
I would say that when we first started out, physical CDs were still in demand. They were definitely dying, but they were still in demand. Now, a lot of the youth, they don't care about physical CDs because there's no need for them. I mean, you can broadcast your music through a variety of streaming platforms, and where it started out as like half streaming, half physical release. Now we're at a point where almost all of our releases are through a digital prison.
Yeah.
And what CDs used to do, I feel like we've seen through videos like on YouTube. YouTube's like what CDs and radio used to be like. You know, you tune in and wait and see what the newest thing is, you know, versus, you know, kind of how people have done things in the past.
Or you catch on to a playlist, or if the algorithm picks you up in certain preferences, the chance to get out in front of a wider audience, I think, exists just because of weirder things like that. Whereas, you know, it used to be back in the day, and we don't do that here on our college radio station, but certainly radio has gotten a little bit corporate, and you hear the same playlists on several other stations, and it's harder for you to get in front of people that way. I think that the digital aspect of it, well, it's a little bit more of an adventure, can certainly be fun for you.
Yeah.
And it definitely shrinks borders with the fans we have. Some of our biggest fans aren't even near Georgia. You know, they're, you know, some of them are Ohio, you know, they're far away. And it's like, you know, with online platforms, you're able to always be in touch with them and always keep them in the loop with what's going on with us.
I feel like we were talking about trickling out the music rather than hitting one big album. Whether it was just maybe a lucky coincidence or not, what we're dealing with right now, where everybody's just kind of at home and consuming content, it's almost tailor-made for the times we're living in right now, because there's more music coming out. And, well, here comes a little bit more, here comes a little bit more, and you get more and more into the band that way.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine going through this 30 years ago when, so like right now, touring is non-existent for bands and artists, but at least we have the internet to still utilize and release content through.
Yeah.
30 years ago, that wasn't the case. And if something like this happened back then and you couldn't tour, then you were pretty much screwed in reaching your fans, because that was really the only way you could reach your fans, unless you were in top 40 radio.
Yeah. Well, that's cool too for everybody at home too, having access to like all the different playlists, like you were saying. Because like, I guess, you know, like what Jack was saying, like 30 years ago or even maybe 10 years ago, like if a college radio station was playing your song in their town, that doesn't mean like you can hear that song in the next town over or whatever. And with the playlist, it's like you just have so much access to so much different stuff. Like whatever anybody is into nationwide, it like what Mike was saying, shrunk the borders, more easily accessible and all that. Really makes sense.
I would certainly agree. I've worked in a lot of different radio formats, and college radio has always just kind of been near and dear to my heart. It's where I started the whole journey or whatever. But just the experimentation and the ability to be like, I like that song, we're going to play it, is not. It's a freedom that you don't get elsewhere. So I think kind of the way that especially indie music has gone to the digital realm to drive up fans has really been a big benefit for college radio too. And so we get to play cool bands like you guys out of Atlanta, Georgia then, whereas maybe 30 years ago we didn't have that access, which is nice. Let's talk a little bit about just making music right now. You guys obviously in the same house there, so you're figuring out the social distancing and everything that you have to deal with, but just getting together, playing, certainly you can't go out, do the gigs, things like that. What's your experience right now?
We were very dedicated to still finding a way to rehearse, you know, at least a few times a week. And because of that, you know, we've still been writing a lot. You know, every once in a while we'll do a live stream, just kind of showcase what we're working on. And then a lot of our other friends in the music scene, you know, we're all kind of working together. And one of our good friends is doing a virtual open mic. And a lot of the artists in the scene kind of chime in with that, and everyone gets to see one another that way too. So there definitely is a solidarity to all this, and you know, it's definitely made the scene stronger, but definitely it's also made us more patient too.
Yeah,
so.
But we've been using the time really to just, you know, start writing more maybe consistently, maybe, or like just using it as a period to like create.
Typically, what's the indie scene look like in Atlanta? I have to imagine it's pretty thriving for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, it's Atlanta's got a very expansive music scene. So, indie is a small part of a broader collection of artists in Atlanta, but
Yeah.
there's definitely an indie community, and a lot of the bands do kind of travel the same circles and support one another. And I'd say it's got a pretty great scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can see in normal circumstances, you can see a show pretty much any night of the week, even Sundays and Mondays. So there are clubs, small clubs all throughout town in different neighborhoods that definitely cater to indie bands, which is nice.
I'm curious about your influences. Who are the bands or artists that when you heard when you were growing up that made you want to pick up an instrument and do this, and then have maybe shaped the way your sound comes together?
Definitely early R.E.M.
Yeah, we're all big R.E.M. fans.
U2.
Yeah, huge U2 fans. Echo and the Bunnymen.
The Smiths.
Yeah, Echo and the Bunnymen, the Stone Roses too.
Yeah.
The Laws, a lot of those British, like from 70s all the way through early 90s bands.
Yeah.
Really had a huge impact on us.
I'm curious. Give me your Mount Rushmore of R.E.M. because we've been playing them since back in the day here on WLFC.
What about R.E.M. would you like to know?
What's your Mount Rushmore of R.E.M. songs?
Reckoning is
Our favorite
album.
Way to go, songs or records?
You can do it any way you want.
Let's go with like the full records.
So I think Murmur and Reckoning, those two, it's like saying Rubber Soul and Revolver.
Okay.
They're kind of like a buy one, get two.
Yeah.
They're companion pieces.
Yeah, they're companion pieces. I think Murmur is probably one of the best records ever made of all time. And I think Reckoning is, if you're an R.E.M. fan, that's most R.E.M. fans' favorite.
Reckoning was like a life-changing
record
for me.
But Automatic also, their early records won the love of their fans. Automatic won the love of the world. So it's like we also, we appreciate the professional strides they made with a piece like that as well.
Fables of the Reconstruction too. That third one, it's very dark, and it's another reinvention of the band with the kind of lyrics Michael Stipe was writing. If you could listen closely and understand what he was saying.
I'm a big fan of the Chronic Town EP too. I've burnt that one to the ground. That really gets me going.
Green is I love Green too. Like the first half of that, it hits so hard.
Yeah, and Document is great. I mean, really, that whole like 14 years there, from like 1982 until maybe 94, 95, it was just solid gold, like one after the other. All those records are so good.
And you guys are well versed in R.E.M., which is to me it's amazing because I was in high school in the mid '90s. You guys were in high school about 10 years after that, and that's well past their prime. How did you get introduced to them in the first place?
There's always music playing like in our home when you're growing up, and
our household for sure. Like specifically our parents.
They turned us on to like
all those bands.
We were very lucky that we grew up with such great influences in music, from an early age. We were, our parents would play Murmur or Pet Sounds or Revolver, any of those like staples.
And then especially like playing in, I guess, sort of like an indie or an alternative band in Georgia. It's hard to miss R.E.M. Like everywhere you go, people ask you about it, or like, especially like older people in the scene who were like around when R.E.M. was playing. It's like, so many people like that we've come across have like, run into Michael Stipe like around Atlanta or Athens or like all that, like 20 years ago. So just being in this location too, just sort of breeds
like the home state heroes.
Yeah.
So the tour for April had to be canceled because of the coronavirus. So when things get back to whatever normal is going to be, I'm sure you guys are looking forward to getting back out into the clubs and getting back into the scene a little bit. Between now and then, what's next for the Head?
We got a July EP that's going to come out.
Coming out with an EP in July. We're shooting a music video in June. And then we also plan on releasing some more music at the start of the fall.
Yeah.
So we definitely have a good plan in terms of releasing music in place, which is good. But touring, yeah, that's kind of on pause right now.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys do happen to get north once that starts opening up, you guys have a home here at WLFC for sure, and
Very
you should
good.
send us the latest EP as well.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Thanks so much for spinning us. We really appreciate the support.
Absolutely, I'm a big fan of Haunt Me. That's in heavy rotation right now, and our DJs and our listeners can actually vote on what our top 15 songs are in our heaviest rotation. If you just go to our Facebook page, is probably the easiest way to find that. So you can help get the head there in that top 15. And of course, What Happened to Us, 3 volume. Is this is the new EP going to be another What Happened to Us?
No, it's a
One-off.
completely separate body of work.
Yeah.
A little more conceptual.
Yeah,
It's a different affair.
yeah.
Yeah, the upcoming one.
So you can find that. You can find the EPs right now anywhere you find music. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Music. I was listening to it there before I started talking to you guys. And I just appreciate you guys dealing with, you found out firsthand how bad I am with email and following up on email. So we finally got this arranged. I appreciate your patience with that. And
No
thanks
worries.
for stopping by.
Thanks for
Absolutely.
having
Thanks
us.
for having us,
Thanks for having
Doug.
And of course, we'll be continuing to talk to bands as we try and get back to whatever normal is going to be. And of course, we're spinning them right here at 88.3 WLFC.